I don't know who they have behind him as far as how effective they can be running the offense, but they aren't Shedeur Sanders. They're one of the best quarterbacks in the country. I mean, think about this, Moj. He completed 26 passes and had 445 yards passing.
Yeah, it was amazing. Some big gainers, obviously. Travis Hunter on that first one made it happen himself with his legs on a quick pass out to the right side, and then he just turns it up beyond the DB and all the way to the house. Impressive stuff, man. It's just I feel it's going to have to be that way all year long, that these guys are going to have huge games in order to win. They clearly in the trenches, they feel a little bit better, right?
They're not as improved as we expected,
no,
right? We were
they're
told
not.
that they brought in better players. We were told that they're going to be better. What was the term that was asked of Dion? Bolstered.
Right.
And he said improved. Well, I don't know how improved they are. If you can't run the ball at all.
I mean, you're averaging
at all
2.6 yards per carry, Vic. You just can't seem to break through. And I don't know whether the holes are not good enough and big enough for these guys, or there's just an overall lack of talent at the running back spot. They use the passing game essentially as a run game. That bubble screen was there all night long, and so they tried to utilize that.
My worry is if you average 2.6 against North Dakota State, and I get it, a great FCS school, but it's still an FCS school, how the hell are you going to run the ball on the road at Kansas, against Oklahoma State, against Nebraska next week?
Right.
So that to me is what I wanted to see last night, and I established that in the show yesterday when you guys asked, what do you want to see? I want to see a run game. I didn't see it. I didn't see a run game. I saw a win. A notable win. Anytime you win, it's a tough thing to do. They persevered. They were down at the half. They came back. I sort of had the feeling I did a little thing with DMAC last night because, DMAC's always on the air. Mm-hmm. And I told him, I said, I think the Buffs come back and win. No problem. Well, it was a problem, but they won. That winning the game ultimately is first. But no run game. It's not there.
Well, and again, this is we suspected that this might be the case. It's the first game with a lot of new guys, and you get an opportunity to analyze the film. You start to figure out where your teammates are going to be, that sort of thing. I mean, I'm optimistic it will improve only because you have so many guys trying to mesh in a real football game at one time. I think it's going to get better, but it has to get better once you get into Big 12 play, no doubt.
303-504-0925. Shop Mazda text line. Can always get in touch with us on the Voice of the People on the Altitude Sports Radio app. It's powered by the Fricky Law Firm. They're in your corner. A lot more to get to today. Stick around.
Okay, picture this. It's Friday afternoon when a thought hits you. I can spend another weekend doing the same old whatever, or I can hop into my all-new Hyundai Santa Fe and hit the road. With available H-Track all-wheel drive and 3-row seating, my whole family can head deep into the wild. Conquer the weekend in the all-new Hyundai Santa Fe. Visit HyundaiUSA.com or call 562-314-4603 for more details. Hyundai, there's joy in every journey.
Altitude Sports Radio, 92.5. Mosher, Lombardi, and Kane.
That last drive, though, not running the ball, like throwing the passes, is that something that, you guys couldn't really run the ball effectively a lot tonight? I'm not
going to say that. You got to understand, you got to take what people give you. You can't take what you want, and it's not there. What is it? What did he throw for? 445 yards? You think we upset?
Right.
Who upset? So, they didn't have a running game. Well, the passing game looked pretty darn good today. So let's be appreciative and thankful that we got one of the premier guys in college football spinning it. We're going to run the ball. We're going to do that. We're going to have a lot more balance. Today was just that type of day. You got to take what they give you.
But in that situation, like 2 minutes left, you want to run the clock down.
You want first downs.
Right.
If you want to run the clock down, they got a 5-man box. They got five down. Like, you got to look out there and say, okay, I got one-on-one right here. I haven't seen one-on-one the whole game. So I got to do what I got to do to move these chains. And that's what that is.
All right, so a couple different fronts in that answer from Dion in the post game.
I don't think he understood the question. The question is, why didn't you just kneel down?
Well, here's where I'm confused.
What's the question?
The game doesn't the game wouldn't have ended if they took knees because North Dakota State had one timeout left. They would have drawn.
There's 55 seconds left, weren't there? After they punted.
I thought it was more than that. Wait, after who punted? Who are you talking about?
They were under 2 minutes to play when they got that first down on the pass interference. Under 2 to play. They had one timeout.
After the pass interference, there was that was 1:52 in the game.
Okay.
Yes,
they had one timeout.
Yeah, North Dakota State had one timeout, and so I don't think the game would have ended if they just took knees. They would have burned the clock to like virtually no time, like
They
I don't
could
know,
have
15 seconds, something like
they
that.
could have burned it all the way down. They leave him 38.
38. Yeah.
They could have burned it pretty darn close.
If you want to
all
make the
way
argument
down.
that it's stupid to throw in that situation to risk an incompletion, I totally understand that. That makes sense. But I don't think that they could just take knees and end the game, which I heard a couple people say.
I was highly impressed by
What is the game clock in college football?
25.
But it's weird because it's 25 seconds when the ref declares it ready
Correct.
for play. So there's wiggle room in there. It's a lot more difficult to calculate than the NFL, which is play ends, you got 40 seconds, go.
Correct.
So it's just different.
I was highly impressed with the play and the fight of Cam Miller, the quarterback for North Dakota State.
Yeah. That dude's he's a baller.
I was shocked. I mean, this guy has shown he can run the football. He's pretty shifty, right? Good in the pocket. On that last touchdown run, that 20-yard run, don't they have a spy on him? As the game goes on and you see this guy's ability to run the football and gash you like he did in the early part of the game to make it 17-14, don't you want to have a guy that makes sure the quarterback just doesn't get loose and run through your secondary? He looked shocked on that last touch, which 31-20. He looked shocked at all the real estate he had.
The question
the
is,
end zone.
Moshe, who would you have spying that guy? Because do you want to take somebody who's going to be a pass rusher and have him just kind of hang and watch him? Do you want to take somebody out of coverage? Because that guy was 18 of 22 throwing the football too.
Yeah, I mean, he played a good game. And you know what? Maybe we ought to look at this. I don't know what they're going to do against the Corn, but maybe we ought to look at North Dakota State. We gave them their flowers all week long leading up to this game. Mm-hmm. This is a fine FCS program. Number two in the country. I'll tell you right now, when I watch North Dakota State, there ain't much difference between them and a lot of FBS teams in this country.
I agree.
You put North Dakota State in Vanderbilt, they give Vandy not only all they want, maybe they – I mean, you put them in the Mountain West, I'm telling you, man, that's a pretty damn good football team. And one thing they are is disciplined. They don't turn the ball over. They don't do stupid things. That one dude had the pass interference penalty late, obviously, but he got caught.
Yeah.
And the receiver got behind him.
That's because Shador made a play.
Yes,
Shador found some wiggle room to make that play. You are so right. I mean, that's a good team. That's a team that a lot of FBS schools are going to struggle with. That's not the story here. We knew this was not going to be easy. We knew this was going to be a pulling teeth kind of game. I mean, hell, the Buffs trailed at halftime. They got it right. The Buffs have better top-end talent. That's abundantly clear when you're watching the game. That talent won out. That's not the story. The story is you have to establish some things so that when you get to those other opponents later in the season, you can beat those opponents with necessary items. You have to run the ball. They can't go through another season not being able to run the ball. And now listen, Prime says afterwards, hey man, they were stacking the line of scrimmage. They gave us the pass. Okay, well, what if every team stacks the line of scrimmage? They have better athletes in the secondary.
Yeah, and you aren't able to throw for 450 yards that day, right?
You have to run the ball. Am I off base there, or am I just...
No, maybe he's just talking about that game specifically, but we saw it last year, man. Well, like, the last thing I want is this to be a copy and paste 2023 to 2024 for the Buffs, where last year, the first 4 to 5 weeks of the season, you were throwing for 350 to 450 yards a game, winning games. Didn't matter. You didn't have a running game. And then you couldn't throw for 350 yards anymore. It was more of a grind in the passing game.
And then when you couldn't,
and you had nothing to fall back on.
Correct.
That's what you need. You need to have that at least in your back pocket when you need it.
Do they have a tight end on this roster? Is there anybody that actually plays the position of tight end?
I didn't see a tight end factor in the game last night.
Zero.
That's a great question.
I guess I was I was waiting for a tight end to get open around down the middle. I mean, because Shedeur is either it went out to the flat an awful lot. There was nothing over the middle. No finding seams essentially. I mean, there are a couple plays. Don't get me wrong, but I thought that maybe that it could have been exploited. And again, the discipline of North Dakota State. Their blitz packages, they took chances on Shedeur Sanders. They really did. And he got hit. I thought the offensive line protected better than it did last season. He did get hit, and he stood in the pocket, and he took those hits to make those throws and make those plays.
Listen,
but
man.
the Bison also brought it on him. I mean, the Bison had some free rushers, dude, and things were open, and that's why you passed for 445. But they went after him. They got after it.
It was outstanding to watch CU go to 1-0, but you CU honks who already see in my mentions, C-Bear, you CU honks, you got to understand one thing. You're 4 yards away from losing that game last night.
I can't believe they let him
4
actually
yards
catch
away.
the football. I'm just blown away by that.
Who was the defensive back for CU that could have got flagged for targeting and taunting at the end with 15 seconds to play? They got away with it. Got away with it.
Yeah.
So the worst kind of fan is a fan who just looks at a game, a win, and moves on and says, no big deal. What's wrong with sitting down and assessing what you did right and what you did wrong?
Well,
Ultimately, number one, you won the game. You moved on. That's the most important thing. We all acknowledge that. You have better top-end talent. You got some things to work on. And if you can't see that, you're blind. You're a cheerleader.
Vic, we just played comments from Coach Prime. I thought he was fairly humble afterwards. I mean, he's like, yeah, we had more points than they did, but did we really win this game? I mean,
can we hear that again, Nelly? His comments after the game where he's like,
damn honest.
The win kind of felt like a loss. Can we hear that again?
I mean, he's pretty dang honest.
You won, but you didn't win. It's almost like we had more points than they did. Giving up the last touchdown on the run, that bothered me because we pride ourselves on going to get the quarterback, and we have a multitude of young men that can go get the quarterback, and we didn't get that done. But I'm thankful, I'm happy we got the W. Miss Peggy's one step closer to the dream and the vision that we have for her, as well as I think 31 NFL scouts are on hand tonight, and I think they saw what they came to see. So let's move on from there. I'm going to try my best to hold back my anger, but we got the W, so I'm happy.
If your coach,
I love that reaction.
Yeah, if your coach is angry after the game,
I love it.
And he said we won, but we didn't win.
Yeah.
I mean, so I'll see you folks, and again, we're right there with you. We're happy about the 1-0 start. It's one step closer to Miss Peggy going back to a bowl game. But if your coach has that kind of reaction, just take some inventory of yourself and your team right now and understand that this is still very, very much a work in progress.
Well, there's nothing better than winning a game and having some teaching points from that win. And that's exactly what he's going to have all week, some teaching points. Somebody says, the offense, the run game just wasn't there last night. They'll get it. Well, you got to prove that because they didn't have it at all last year. If you can't, let me ask you this question. Let me put it this way. If you can't run the ball against North Dakota State, who are you going to run it against?
Yeah.
Well, Vic, I don't know, but again, I'm trying to put into a category how good North Dakota State really is. You know, it's interesting. Is it South Dakota State? Well, all the
Dakotas are good.
Flipping Dakotas are good.
Even the non-states, just South Dakota is pretty good.
Whoever Oklahoma State is playing this weekend, it's a Dakota, a South Dakota of some kind. Whoever they're playing, they are only a 9.5-point favorite. I've got to look at it.
Those Dakotas are sneaky.
The Dakotas are sneaky damn good. So I'm trying to think. They've got a lot of beef. For some reason, they've got big, beefy linebackers who can run.
Yeah.
And they've got big defensive linemen who can run. And by the way, they have two guys on the offensive line, including their left tackle, who is going to be Absolutely in the National Football League.